A 2019 Ram, 60,000 miles, pump dead, injectors dead, 12 grand on the table. And when the shop pulled the fuel system apart, every bit of damage traced back to one bottle, one additive the owner poured in at every fill-up thinking he was helping. He was not helping. He was killing his truck. That is not a one-off. 7 diesel fuel additives are still on shelves right now that will do the exact same thing to yours. One of them dissolved injector seals from the inside out. The manufacturer quietly changed the formula and never told a soul. Do not pour these into your diesel. But stick around. The lab data behind these failures completely changed my mind about which additives actually work, and I am going to show you the one I trust. Here is what nobody talks about. The fuel you pump today is not the same fuel your truck was built to run on. When they stripped sulfur down to 15 parts per million to clean up emissions, they also stripped the natural compounds that protected your fuel system. Your pumps, your injectors, your common rail components. They all depend on a thin film of lubricity between metal parts that move against each other thousands of times per minute. When that film is gone, metal grinds on metal, and something expensive breaks. So are additives the answer? Some are. Some will make things dramatically worse. We all want to believe that bottle we just poured in did something useful. The truth is, additives only work when matched to a real problem. Poured in blind, they are worthless. And sometimes the problem is not even the fuel or the additive. Later in this video, I will tell you about a guy who was convinced his engine was dying. Turned out a $2 part was causing the whole thing, but we will get to that. Now, 7 diesel additives you need to stop using right now. Number 7 on the avoid list. Dyed off road fuel in on-road trucks. This one will not blow up your engine. It will blow up your wallet. Dyed fuel is cheap because the government does not charge highway tax on it. Put it in your street truck, and you are creating legal problems that follow you for years. Fines alone run into the thousands. But the real hit comes when something breaks. You file a warranty claim, the dealer pulls your injectors. They find red dye residue. Claim denied. And that dye does not wash out overnight. Keep your receipts. Keep batch numbers. That paper trail is your only defense if questions ever come up. And the next one on this list, it will actually blow up your engine. Number 6, MMT and metallic ash forming additives. Think of your DPF like a chimney screen. Soot is the wood smoke. Your truck burns it off during regen. But ash is the white powder that never burns. It just sits there, layer after layer, until the filter chokes. The worst offender is MMT, methyl cyclopentadienyl manganese tricarbonyl. Yeah, it is a mouthful. When it burns, it leaves manganese residues that coat your catalytic converter, foul your sensors, and pack permanent ash into your DPF. Several countries flat out banned it because airborne manganese is toxic to the brain, but MMT is just the headline. Even aggressive detergent additives can change how ash behaves inside your filter. I have seen trucks roll into shops with DPF problems that traced back to a bottle poured in 6 months earlier. No warning lights, no codes, nothing until the filter was already toast. And unlike soot, you cannot burn ash off. You either pay for professional cleaning or replace the whole DPF. So after you try any new product, watch your regen logs. If active regens suddenly spike, that bottle is doing more harm than good. When we get to the use list, I will show you a cetane improver that does the job without leaving a single metallic residue behind. But first, the next one involves putting the wrong fluid into a very expensive system. Number 5. Non-certified fluids in the DEF tank. Picture pouring maple syrup into your radiator. That is basically what happens when the wrong fluid goes into your SCR system. Except the repair bill makes a radiator flush look like pocket change. Your SCR needs a very specific mix. 32.5% urea in purified water. ISO, certified DEF only. No exceptions. And yet people still mess this up. Some pour fuel in by accident. Some try tap water. Some grab a cheap jug because it was $5 less. Every one of those shortcuts triggers the same chain reaction. Crystals clog the dosing nozzles. Spray patterns fall apart. Corrosion eats the internals. One tech told me about a customer who accidentally dumped 2 gallons of diesel into the DEF tank. Drain, flush, inspect, replace, north of $4,000, and that was catching it early. The fix? Use the correct DEF. Nothing else goes in that tank. Ever. Number 4. Mixing additive chemistries that fight each other. Ever mix bleach and ammonia? Probably not. Everyone knows that is a terrible idea, but diesel owners mix incompatible additives all the time. 2 bottles from 2 different brands go into the same tank. Nobody checks whether those chemistries play nice together. Some formulas work in opposite directions. One blends water into fuel, the other pushes water out. Pour both in, and they cancel each other. Your fuel now handles water worse than if you use nothing at all. It gets worse. Alcohol-based additives strip boundary lubricity. And stacking heavy detergents can mobilize deposits so fast, your filters get overwhelmed in miles, not months. I had an owner come in who doubled up on cleaning additives from two brands. Within 100 miles, his filters were choked with loosened varnish. Engine dropped fuel pressure, went into limp mode on the highway. That is not a cleaning, that is an avalanche. One brand at a time. Follow the label. More is not better. Number 3. K100 and solvent digel products used the wrong way. K100 and solvent heavy digel products are perfectly good tools. The problem is how people use them. K100 does not separate water from fuel. It wraps tiny water droplets so they pass through combustion. Sounds clever, but that means emulsified water is now bypassing your mechanical water separator entirely. Your truck's built-in defense just got sidestepped. K100 has its place. Chronic water problems. Ethanol-contaminated fuel. Small engines with no separator. But it is not a replacement for draining your water separator on schedule. Digel products fall into the same trap. They are emergency tools. Conservative dosing. Patient soak times. Fresh filter right after. But some guys pour this stuff in every tank like a vitamin. The solvents eat seals over time. They loosen deposits that overwhelm filters. Treat these like a fire extinguisher, not a candle. Number 2. A TF. Used motor oil, acetone, and gasoline in your fuel tank. A TF. Used motor oil, two-stroke oil, kerosene, gasoline, acetone. Right now, there are diesel owners pouring automatic transmission fluid into their fuel tanks because some guy on a forum said it cleans injectors. On old mechanical injection systems, ATF sometimes made things quieter for a bit. The internet is full of those stories, but modern common rail engines are a completely different animal. A TF has detergents, friction modifiers, and dyes built for transmission internals, not fuel systems. Put that through a common rail engine and it messes with fuel atomization, adds ash to your DPF, attacks rubber seals, and it does not have the boundary lubricity your high-pressure pump actually needs. Used motor oil is worse, full of degraded residue, metal fines, and carbon junk. That is like feeding your fuel pump a diet of transmission soup and metal shavings. Two-stroke oil? Same fundamental problem. Not made for modern diesel fuel systems. Period. Acetone? No lubricity. Potential seal and tank compatibility issues. People run experiments because a forum post said it works. It does not. Skip it. And gasoline in a diesel tank? That is the nuclear option. You can destroy your pump and injectors in a matter of miles. If it was not built for your fuel system, keep it out. Now, number 1 on the avoid list. This one hits different because it involves a manufacturer changing a formula behind your back. Number 1. Lucas, AmSoil, and untargeted oil additives. Modern motor oils are balanced systems, detergents, anti-wear agents, viscosity modifiers, all calibrated to work together. Dump an aftermarket oil treatment on top, and you risk upsetting a formula the manufacturer spent years developing. But generic oil supplements are just the warm-up. Here is the real story. A 1997 Ford 7.3-liter diesel lost oil catastrophically after the owner used an AmSoil fuel additive. The community dug into it and found out AmSoil had quietly changed their injector cleaning formula. The new version included ethylenediamine. That chemical attacks Viton rubber, the exact material used in those OEM injector seals. Nobody was warned. The seals dissolved from the inside out. That is not ancient history. Any manufacturer can change their formula tomorrow without telling you. And then there is Lucas. When tested for lubricity, Lucas scored worse than other products. Some owners also report that certain Lucas formulas cause oil to foam more than it should. That is a big deal in HEUI engines. Those engines use high-pressure oil to fire the injectors. If the oil foams up, that pressure becomes unstable. Your injectors start acting up, and you would never think to blame the oil additive you poured in 2 oil changes ago. But that link has been reported over and over. Now, let me be clear. When I say you should avoid oil additives, I do not mean every oil treatment is bad. Later in this video, I will show you a specific fix for sticky injectors. That product solves a real known problem. But that is completely different from just dumping a random oil supplement into your engine every oil change just because you feel like it. And that wraps the avoid list. 7 products and practices that will damage your fuel system, your emissions, your warranty, or your bank account. Now, I am going to show you the 8 diesel additives that actually earn a spot in your garage. And I want to be upfront about something. I am not sponsored by any of these companies. Not Arc Oil, not OptiLube, not anyone on this list. These picks come from lab data, community testing, and what I have personally seen work. The one at the very top might surprise you. It does not go into your fuel tank at all. Number 8. Cetane Boosters. 2EHN Power Service Gray Bottle. Stanidine Liquimoly. If your diesel sounds like a bag of hammers every cold morning, this is probably what you need. 2-ethylhexyl nitrate advances when combustion starts. The results are instant. Quieter running, less clatter, smoother cold starts. And sometimes, better fuel economy because the burn is more complete. Here is the part most people miss. 2EHN changes timing, not energy. If your fuel already has decent cetane, you will not feel much difference. But if your local station pumps fuel in the low 40s, or you deal with cold climate starts, this earns its money fast. Power Service Gray Bottle covers warm weather cetane and lubricity. Standardine Performance Formula comes from a company that actually builds injection pumps. They know what their own hardware needs. Liqui Moly Super Diesel Additive gives you a European formula at 250 mils per 75 liters, and unlike MMT from the avoid list, 2EHN works with your emission system, not against it. Number 7. Seal Conditioners. Proma and Wins. If your older diesel started weeping oil from seals that used to be bone dry, this is not a miracle cure. It is a clock, and you are buying time. Seal conditioners work by softening rubber that years of heat and oxidation have turned brittle. Products like Proma and Wins come up a lot in community discussions. Owners report that early-stage weeping slowed down or stopped after a treatment cycle. Double dose upfront, maintenance dose after that. I have seen this by a year or more on older trucks, and when the alternative is pulling the engine for a rear main seal, a year matters. But if seals are cracked through or physically damaged, no conditioner fixes that. Band-aid on a broken bone. Replace them. Number 6. Fuel-borne catalysts. DPF assist products. If your truck lives in stop-and-go traffic, your DPF is fighting a losing battle. Think of fuel-borne catalysts like adding kindling to a fire. They lower the temperature soot needs to burn inside your filter. That means regen can happen under conditions where it normally would not. For city trucks, delivery rigs, short-haul equipment, this cuts down how often your truck kicks into active regen. Highway driver, you probably do not need this. Your exhaust already runs hot enough. Save your money. Now, when a DPF does get loaded up, you have options. If the filter is still in one piece, a shop can do a low-temperature cleaning right on the truck. If ash is packed in deep, they pull it off and do an ultrasonic or media-assisted cleaning. Forced regen is the last resort. And here is the key question. When do you clean versus replace? Ash does not burn off. It builds up from oil additive leftovers and metallic residue. Once it reaches a certain point, or you see cracks in the substrate or melted sensor contacts, cleaning will not save it. And if you ignore a clogged DPF long enough, it does not just kill the filter, it can take your turbo and your sensors with it. Number 5. Storage stabilizers, demulsifiers, and biocides. Fuel that sits is not just sitting there, it is slowly rotting. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I have cracked open fuel tanks that would change your mind. Oxidation creates gum and varnish. Water builds up from condensation. Give it enough time and microbes start growing at the fuel water line. They produce sludge that chokes every filter the second you try to fire things up. Start with a stabilizer while the fuel is fresh. Add a demulsifier to push water out so you can drain it. And then the step most people skip, the diesel bug. First, biocide kills the organisms. Then an enzyme treatment digests the dead stuff. See, biocide kills them, but their bodies stay behind as sludge. Still clogs filters just as bad. The enzyme breaks that down. When you bring stored equipment back online, swap filters, bleed the system, and change the oil if you think fuel got into it. If anything sounds wrong, stop. Number 4. PEA detergents. Arc Oil AR6400D, Hot Shot Secret, Wins, BG44K. If your diesel has run 60, 80, 100,000 miles on questionable fuel, your injector nozzles probably look like the inside of a neglected coffee pot. Varnish, carbon, deposits choking spray patterns, misfires, rough idle, smoke, a slow power loss you might not even notice until someone else drives your truck. Polyethyramine. PEA. It is the gold standard for dissolving that kind of buildup, but most people use it wrong. Put a fresh fuel filter in first, add the right dose of PEA, and then comes the step that separates the guys who fix their trucks from the guys who don't. Go drive it hard. Highway miles, hill climbs, towing. The engine needs high sustained exhaust temps to burn off what PEA loosens. Without that heat, you just mobilized a bunch of carbon that is now floating through your fuel system, looking for a filter to plug. So change filters again after the treatment. That is the whole point. Arc Oil runs this as a staged system, a R6400D for the initial deep clean, a R6500 for cetane, a R6200 for daily protection. Hot Shot Secret, Wins, and BG44K are professional-grade options you will find in shop environments, but set your expectations. Chemical cleaning handles light to moderate buildup. I have seen rough-running engines smooth out big time after a proper PEA cycle. But if your injectors have worn nozzle tips or internal leaks, no bottle fixes that. If things get better but do not fully clear up, the problem is mechanical. Now we are getting into the products that experienced diesel techs actually run in their own trucks. And remember that $2 part I mentioned at the beginning? That story is coming up right after the use list. Do not skip it. Number 3. Anti-gel products. Power Service White Bottle, OptiLube XPD, House. 5 degrees outside, 6 in the morning. You turn the key. Engine cranks but will not fire. Your fuel filter is plugged solid with wax crystals that formed overnight. You are stuck. And without the right products and a spare filter in the truck right now, your morning just got very expensive and very cold. Most important rule with anti-gel. Put it in before the cold hits, not after your filters are plugged. Before. Anti-gel liquids work by keeping wax crystals small enough to flow right through the filter. But liquid in a bottle isn't magic. You need to back it up with hardware like filter and tank heaters. Power Service White Bottle is the go-to winterizer. Gray bottle handles warm weather. Most experienced operators split by season. OptiLube XPD takes an all-season approach. Anti-gel, demulsifier, and cetane boost in one bottle. Howe's diesel treat comes up constantly for combined anti-gel and lubricity. When prevention fails, rescue products are out there. Power Service Diesel 911. Howe's Diesel Lifeline. If you cannot get those, number 1 diesel or kerosene works in a pinch, but both cut lubricity. Temporary fix only. Every diesel owner should carry a cold weather kit. Keep spare fuel filters, a sealed bottle of emergency degel, and the basic tools you need to swap a filter on the side of the road. And here is a tip. Practice that filter change in your driveway on a Saturday. Trust me, you do not want to be figuring it out on the shoulder of a highway in the middle of a blizzard. Number 2. Lubricity additives. Arc oil AR6200 and biodiesel blending. So this is where the real money is. Not in what this additive costs, but in what it stops from happening. Think back to the start of this video. When they pulled the sulfur out of diesel, they also pulled out the natural lubricity that protected your fuel system. Refiners try to add lubricity packages back in at the terminal, but that treatment is hit or miss. Some stations pump well-treated fuel. Others pump the bare minimum. And your pump and injectors do not care about the reason. They just wear out. Arc oil AR6200 comes up everywhere in community testing, and for good reason. It puts lubricity enhancers, combustion modifiers, and detergents all into one bottle. In independent HFRR testing, AR6200 scores in the low 300s for wear scar diameter. Untreated ULSD often scores north of 500. That gap is the difference between a protected pump and one that is wearing itself out every time you drive. And it only takes about 5 milliliters per 13 gallons. Pennies per fill up. And here is something most people do not know. One of the best ways to boost lubricity is not even a bottled product. Blending in a small amount of biodiesel, around 2 to 5%, consistently crushes wear scar numbers in lab testing. Some independent tests show a 2% blend scoring near 220 on the HFRR scale. That actually beats most bottles on the shelf. But biodiesel comes with trade-offs. It absorbs water, it raises your gel point in winter, and at higher blend levels, it can cause compatibility issues. So, it is worth knowing about, but you need to understand what you are getting into. Now let me explain why lubricity protection is worth every single cent. CP4 high-pressure pump failures are the most devastating thing that can happen to a modern diesel fuel system. When that pump fails, it blows apart from the inside. Metal shrapnel shoots through the fuel rail and into every single injector. The entire system downstream gets contaminated. You are looking at $10,000 in repairs, sometimes more. So think about it this way. A few bucks per tank on a proven lubricity additive versus a possible $12,000 total system failure. That is not a gamble. That is insurance. And now we are at number 1 on the use list. This is the product I trust the most, and it solves a problem that most diesel owners do not even know they have. Number 1. Oil Side Stiction Fix. Arc Oil AR9100. Earlier in this video, I told you to stay away from untargeted oil additives. So this might sound like I am going back on my word, but I am not. The single most effective diesel treatment I have ever seen goes into your oil, not your fuel tank. And the difference is not about what you pour in. The difference is about why you are pouring it in. Stiction treatments use boron-based detergents to go after one specific problem, and that is sticky spool valves inside your injectors. When your engine oil breaks down or varnish starts to build up, that spool valve starts to hang and stick. You get hard starts, rough idle, misfires, and that cold knock that shows up every morning and goes away once the engine warms up. I have personally seen this fix work on 6.0 and 7.3 liter Power Strokes. The owners were ready to write a check for full injector replacement, but within 1 week of running this treatment, cold starts smoothed out. The knock was gone, and they saved thousands of dollars. And honestly, it still surprises me every single time. Arch Oil AR9100 is the product that comes up the most for this job. You run a higher dose at the first oil change, and then a maintenance dose at every oil change after that. The Arc Oil system is designed to work together. AR9100 goes in the oil to clean the injector mechanism. AR6200 goes in the fuel to protect the nozzle. One handles the inside, the other handles the outside. If your injectors are not sticking, you do not need this product. But if they are, this is one of the cheapest fixes you can try before stepping up to bench testing or a full injector replacement. So that is the complete list. 7 additives to avoid, 8 that actually earn their spot in your garage. But knowing which products to use is only half the job. The single biggest mistake diesel owners make with additives has nothing to do with which bottle they pick up. The mistake is reaching for a bottle before you even figure out what the actual problem is. No additive in the world fixes a worn-out nozzle tip. No additive repairs a cracked seal. And no additive undoes a wiring fault. Before you pour anything into your truck, take a few minutes and do the basics. Check where you have been fueling. Pull your filters out and actually look at them. Drain your water separator. Plug in a scanner and check for codes. Look at your region history. And here is a story that is worth keeping in your back pocket. One of the most talked about cases in diesel forums is a truck that developed bad knocking and heavy smoke right after a simple fuel filter change. The owner was convinced it was bad fuel, but when a tech finally got under it, the problem turned out to be a faulty gasket on the aftermarket filter that was letting air into the system. They put in a new gasket, primed the system properly, and every single symptom disappeared. A $2 part fixed what looked like a $2,000 problem. So who actually gets the most benefit out of additives? Older diesels, high-mileage trucks, engines that sit for months at a time, equipment running in areas where fuel quality is all over the place. But if you are driving a newer diesel on premium fuel with solid, consistent maintenance, the benefit from additives does get smaller. Not zero, but the margins definitely shrink. So here is the bottom line. Additives have real value when they are matched to real problems. Anti-gel for cold weather. Lubricity additives where your fuel falls short. PEA detergents for deposit buildup. Stabilizers for fuel that sits in storage. And stiction treatments for sticky injectors. Diagnose before you dose. Measure what you can. And never let a bottle of chemistry replace the mechanical work that actually keeps your diesel running for 300,000 miles. Now that you know what not to pour into your fuel tank, you need to know about the daily habits that are destroying your engine anyway. If you drive a turbo diesel, you are probably making these specific mistakes without even realizing it. Click the video on your screen right now before you cost yourself thousands in repairs.